and we were planning this study at Indian Wells. We had a donor that had come in, was very interested in seeing the work move from stuff that was happening anecdotally, stories, to actual hard science. Like, can you actually put real biological information behind what people have known happens at these week-long events? There's this transformative aspect where you go in one person, you come out a different person. You're changed in unique ways, not only from a health disease perspective, but from a personality, right? You behave completely differently.
Thank you again for joining us on another awesome episode of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified bioenergetic practitioner, and today is brought to you by Nikki, Unleash the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, highly effective approach to wellness. It's a wearable device that puts frequency better based life in your hands and on your wrist. Make sure to stick to the very end because we have a giveaway you're not going to want to miss out on. But you're also not going to want to miss out on one word that my next guest has to say. I've interviewed him before. He's just a wealth of knowledge, and the work that they're doing in this world is just absolutely incredible. So without further ado, let's welcome Hemal Patel, yay, to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Super excited to get to chat with you again. Had you on my show about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it's good to circle back around with you. And before we started recording, I'm like, "Hey, what you up to? Anything new?" And he's like, "Yeah, nothing I can talk about though," which is exciting because it just means that there's cool
Yeah,
stuff coming out,
we'll see.
right?
There may be some, we had a recent paper come out, so maybe we could discuss that a little bit.
Oh, fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. But we will be, in the second half of the show, we will be covering more about the documentary that you and Dr. Joe Dispenza put out about called The Source. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, like how did you get involved with Dr. Joe Dispenza in this type of work to begin with? Like, tell
Yeah.
us about you.
Yeah, so I'm a scientist at the University of California, San Diego. I've been here since 2002. I did my PhD at the Medical College of Wisconsin, which is a private university in Milwaukee. I'm the only PhD in a family of MDs. My wife and I met in high school, and so that's where she went to med school, and it's the only grad school I applied to, got in, and just had an amazing experience. One of the things that I've had the very good fortune of having my entire life, and knock on wood, I don't know if it's just luck or dumb luck, I've had amazing mentors. And so I just found this amazing mentor who sadly passed away this past holidays, who was my thesis mentor. And he was just this salt of the earth guy who just teaches you just how to think about science. And so I've been fortunate to have these individuals that have guided my career. And so he was one of the first to really sort of challenge the way you view the world and think about it in a very scientific way, right? Be skeptical, but open to everything that's possible. When I came to UCSD, I was in a similar environment as well, had an amazing mentor who continues to guide me. We still interact. He's still here at UCSD, and that relationship has sort of developed. For the 20 plus years I've been at UCSD, my focus has been what most scientists do. They find a protein that they think is really cool and important, and they beat that horse to death, getting federal funding and those sorts of things. And we've found a protein that's really cool, beat that dead horse many, many times to the point where it's actually going to move into a clinical trial for ALS very soon. And so it does come full circle in a unique kind of way. About 5 or so years ago, I got introduced to Dr. Joe. There was a collaborator of mine who we shared an office on campus for a decade together. Became really good friends, but never really interacted scientifically. But he remembered all the crazy, weird things we do in the lab and wanted to bring that science to the Joe world. And so when Toby went to a Joe event, he was blown away by all the amazing things he saw. And he remembered that we could do all these things at a very discrete level to identify how biology actually works. And so he said he knew a guy, and so I'm the guy. And that's how I got involved in working in this space and really thinking about the mind-body connection and how can we go as deep as we can to figure out really how powerful the mind is, and not just solving problems, but really fixing what's probably wrong internally with us, and then ultimately thinking about how to turn that externally as an energetic engine as well.
Absolutely. So before, like I said, we'll get into more of the nuts and bolts later, but were you much of a meditator, or did you have any kind of a meditation practice before this type of work, before you got into this type of work?
Yeah, so I mean, I was raised a Hindu, and you ask people in India if they meditate. There's what, 1.5 billion of us there now. Most people don't have time or energy or resources to sit around and just think about stupid stuff all day, right? Not that meditations think about stupid stuff. I did explore this. I was one of these closet Hindus that really didn't practice in the practical sense. I had a sense of a spirituality that there was something bigger and grander than I was, but I couldn't identify what that was. And so when I got to college, I really explored. In addition to biology, I became a philosophy of religion major. I didn't know much about Hinduism, so I took a lot of Eastern theology classes. I found a German guru who taught me how to meditate. And so he and I share this cosmic bond. He whispered this mantra in my ear. The only time it's ever been said out loud is when he whispered in my ear, and it's a thing that buzzes around in my head. And so I use this as a meditative practice in college to get through the tough hours and exams and things like that. And then life happens, you forget about it, and then it sort of falls by the wayside. But religion has really been sort of my guide, this idea of constantly questioning faith, right? And as a scientist, you live in a world of reason, but then there is this part of your science that it has a faith element. There's things I dream up in my head that absolutely don't exist, and I think they absolutely do exist. And so I just have to convince the right people to do the right studies before that becomes a reality. And so, from that perspective, I think faith was something as a scientist I could lean into. And so, in 2014, my mother passed away suddenly, and she was not sort of, she was my connection to whatever spirituality I had, whether it was grand or small. And her not being there really left a void in that space. And so I started having weird dreams and all these paths, which ultimately led me to Christianity. I went through a conversion. And so I found faith in a different light. And it was an interesting, crazy experience of going through this challenge of can I, as a scientist, think about the existence of God and have this relationship with something that I can't see, taste, touch, feel in any kind of way, right? Smell. There's none of those senses that work in that stuff, but there's billions of people that have these crazy mystical experiences where they connect with that element, whatever it is, source, God, light, energy, all of these things. And in that conversion, I went through this interaction. I think the unique difference you see in Eastern versus Western thought is in Eastern theology, it's always the person looking for God, right? That you're trying to find this path. And in most Eastern theologies, there's a million ways to get to God. In Western theology, it's the opposite, that you have missed out on this, and God has always been looking for you, and He's trying to form this relationship, and you just haven't opened your eyes yet. And it's this reimagining, visualization of this relationship that's always existed. And I had that. It was this awakening that when I went through my conversion, it was this intense feeling of someone else is there, right? And so I think that was my sort of meditative practice. And so I did lots of things in Christian faith that people do. I mean, I pray the rosary. It's a very meditative experience, right? You can do this when you're walking, driving. You probably don't want to do it when you're driving. I do it when I'm driving. I can't figure out how I got from home to work. That entire thing is a blur because you're in this crazy state, and everything else sort of happens automatically. So there is this process, and so I think my meditations have grown dramatically in the last decade or so, but it's been targeted in unique kinds of ways.
Well, that's incredible. I don't think that story actually came up when I interviewed you the first time, and that's an absolutely fascinating story. Thank you for sharing. Because a lot of times too, that was going to be my next question. You already went into it, because a lot of times science and faith, don't usually have a tendency to share the same bed together. So
Yeah,
it's
and that
fascinating.
it's always sort of irked me, right? How could a scientist not believe in the existence of God? If you've ever looked under a microscope at life in front of
Right?
you, a cell,
Right?
is so amazing and perfect that I don't see how randomness could have created that, right? Maybe over billions of years, yes, but there's just something perfect about it, right? So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this is a good spot. We're going to pause real quick. We're going to go to a commercial. When we come back, I want to dive in deep into the document, why am I having a hard time with this word? This documentary that you and Dr. Joe Dispenza are, worked on and put out, talking, putting science to meditation and actually getting measurable results of what's happening in people when they meditate. Like I geeked out so hard when I saw this the first time, and I was in tears and I was excited because, finally, what a lot of us have known intuitively, you guys have been able to quantify, and it's just amazing. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
There's a new word for wellness, Nikki. Nikki is your personal wellness companion, a sleek wearable device that lets you choose from a variety of programs to match your day. With a simple tap on the Nikki screen, you can explore wellness programs created for different moments and lifestyles. Need a lift? Select energy. Looking to unwind? Tap stress and anxiety. Want to feel more at ease? Choose pain. Heading out on a trip? Try travel to help you feel ready for new adventures. From busy mornings to quiet evenings, Nikki puts a variety of wellness experiences right at your fingertips and on your wrist. Life moves fast. Nikki moves with you. It's a portable way to bring wellness technology into your everyday routine, wherever life takes you. Your day, your choice, your wellness program. Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health. We are Nikki.com.
Fantastic. Welcome back. I'm super excited to jump into the nuts and bolts of this. So tell us a little bit about the source and how did that all come about, and what's your role in it, and tell us what some of your guys' findings are.
yeah, so we started working with Joe I met him first in 2019. It was towards the end of the year. And we were planning this study at Indian Wells. We had a donor that had come in, was very interested in seeing the work move from stuff that was happening anecdotally, stories, to actual hard science. Like, can you actually put real biological information behind what people have known happens at these week-long events? There's this transformative aspect where you go in one person, you come out a different person. You're changed in unique ways, not only from a health disease perspective, but from a personality, right? You behave completely differently. I went through my first experience in 2021 at a week-long event, and I didn't feel like I was different, but I was different. People around me noticed these changes, right? And I think this is one of the things when you're with yourself and you see yourself every day in the mirror, you don't see that transformation that you've gone through. But if you look at yourself at the beginning and the end of an experience, you see that dynamic shift, which is what people tend to experience. You hear and you hear. And so source is about that. It's how do we quantify the transformation that happens in an individual as they go through this week-long experience? And it's the workings of how our brains around that science we're thinking, right? Can you dissect a person into all of their millions, billions of pieces, and do those millions and billions of pieces reflect this transformation? And crazy enough, they do, right? We see these amazing changes in their biochemistry and their microbiome and in their EEGs and all aspects of what happens to the human body. The brain and the body completely change. And we're able to track this in unique kinds of ways. I think Source does a really good job of balancing the storytelling with the science, right? There's individuals featured in this that have gone through their own transformations, and we think about what that means relative to the science that happens that we described through that entire documentary.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us what are some of the biomarkers that you guys take of people at the beginning of this? And when he talks about week-long experience, he's talking about the week-long retreats that Dr. Joe Dispenza puts on, all over. I really want to go to the one in Cancun. Although I'm living in Mexico right now, I'm not that far away, but so yeah, tell us some about some of the biomarkers that you guys are taking before and after the week-long session.
Yeah, I mean, if you can imagine it, we're taking it, right? So we put wearable devices on people's wrists so we can dynamically capture information about them 24/7. And so these are great because you can look at heart rate variability, you can look at sleep, you can look at activity, all the things that we literally want you to put this on and forget about it, right? Don't stress about it. We just want to capture natural things that you're doing. In addition to that, we do a lot of health surveys. So we want to see how you describe your own characteristics of health. And there's standardized surveys that people use, so you can look at these standardized ways to look at mental, emotional, physical well-being. And it gives us a window into your perceptions of how your biology is shifting and changing. And that becomes really important. When we look at the large data sets, we see that a lot of this guides where the research heads. Some of the biggest things we observe in individuals that go through week-long events is they feel less tired and they feel less pain at the end of the week. And so we think that there's something tied to that experience of going through that week long that then changes the two big barriers to health. If you think about a lot of health situations and how you feel and act, if you're in pain and you're tired, you have a very low opinion of who and what you are, and it really limits your resiliency. But if you can move, if you can feel less pain, you tend to have a very different notion of who and what you are as an individual. And we think that there's a common feature around this. And health surveys give us this, but then we can actually identify these in biomarkers that we looked at. We had a recent paper where we looked at 20 individuals where we did fMRI and then tagged them to a variety of blood markers. And this is published in Communications Biology. And one of the things we noticed in there is because of this pain phenotype that we'd seen in individuals, it turns out their opioids are elevated. Endogenous opioids that you naturally make go up at the end of the retreat relative at the beginning of the retreat. So not only are they feeling this sense of less pain and their perception of pain goes down, but their biology responds to this. It's actually generating an endogenous opioid that should be causing that effect. And so everything we've looked at always connects through. So you see this observation or description that someone gives, when you look at their biology, you're like, holy crap, that's really crazy because this is what we see in your biology. We probably have one of the largest collections of poop from meditators in the world. I think we're over 5,000 samples pre-post now. So your gut is a huge reflection of your biology. And a lot of people say your gut is actually probably what's controlling a lot of things that happen inside and around you. And so to look at how that gut is changing from a beginning to an end gives you lots of information on this. And we use that in unique kinds of ways to look at diseases, to look at healthy individuals. And that's the other thing when we look at large data sets, it's one event. And if you think of it from a drug company perspective, it's one drug, right? This Joe Dispenza week-long event is the drug. And you're looking at not one disease, which is what most companies will do $1 billion trial on to figure out, maybe not $1 billion, but at least a couple hundred million dollars to bring this target, and then cost us billions of dollars in sort of paying out all this stuff. We're looking at one drug, this week-long retreat, and how it impacts 50, 60 diseases at one time. And we have the large scale to be able to do this, which is really cool. The other thing that I think is very informative in our data sets are blood markers. I think when you go to your physician and you feel like something's wrong with you, one of the first things a doctor will do is run a blood test. And one of the problems, I think they're great, right? If you know, you know, right? Information. Most biomarkers have to go through a rigorous process of connecting them to a specific disease, right? And that's an important component. The way we're looking at biology in blood is we're not looking at a single biomarker, we're looking at everything. And so the question becomes, well, how does everything change? And if everything changes, are there unique elements that connect together that can then give us a better reflection of the global general experience that individuals are having? And so we look at every what we call omic responses, right? So we look at the genome, we look at how the genes transcribe into mRNA, we look at how that mRNA turns into protein, we look at the metabolomics that's happening in an individual. We can look at every feature of this. And so you really get this dissected individual. We have, like I said, we have billions of pieces of people that we're looking at. And then we try to put this together to see, does this reflect how that individual is expressing in unique ways? The other big sort of data sets that we've been collecting are related to mind. And we know that the mind changes at an event. We're very interested in the body, but we're interested in seeing how this mind changes differently from other experiences that people have, whether it's psychedelics or they go through TM or yoga or mindfulness. It's a different type of experience going through a week-long event, and we want to try to define some elements of that. And so EEGs are a way to do this. In this recent paper, we had the crazy ability to do fMRI because it was an event in San Diego. So
What's fMRI?
functional magnetic resonance imaging. So you can look at how the brain is connecting and structures are behaving, and you can actually look at the functioning brain, right?
Hmm.
And so we can do this when we're in San Diego because we can bring people onto campus and use these really fancy, expensive machines to do these studies, which just gives you really deep insights into how someone's changing. And the conclusions were crazy from this. It looks like at the end of the week, there are elements of the brain through a week-long event that look like people have been taking psilocybin, which is nuts, that you can actually create your own psychedelic experience
That's incredible.
by
Well,
closing
yeah,
your eyes.
when you talked about, I mean, the whole tired, in pain person, and of course my brain goes to the Karens of the world, and I had a campaign out not too long ago talking about being kind and compassionate to the
Yep.
Karens of the world, right? Because Karens don't become Karens because they feel great. Karens become Karens because they don't feel well, and
Yep.
that affects their personality. I recently went through something similar where I was having some anger issues come back into my life, and oh, I got out of my meditation practice, and oh, my pain is coming back in my body, and it's crazy how it's all connected. And then now 1 week of meditating, and wow, I haven't had an explosive outburst, and wow, my pain has gone down by like 40%. Like this
Yep.
isn't just, woo woo stuff anymore. I
Yep.
love the fact that we're able to put numbers to this.
Right. And it goes two ways, right? I mean, the other that person who's interacting with that Karen on that other end. One of the books that my wife had me read, we have three kids, and I think this book is great for young kids. It's good for adult children, but it's also good for adults, certain parts of it. It's called Good Inside. It's this Becky Kennedy who writes in this, and I usually don't have time to sit and read, and so she got it for me as a book on tape or an audio book, and so I listened to it in the car. And the general premise of this is that everyone is good inside. And what we
Mhm.
see sometimes is a negative reflection of something that's traumatizing them in that moment or that instance. But if you believe and you look at them with that intent that there is good inside, then you will interact with them in this positive kind of way. And I think this is what the week long teaches you is to see that stress that's in front of you and come at it in a way that is unexpected, right? I would be reactive if I saw someone reactive on that other end. And I can tell you 80, 90% of the time, that would be my reaction. They would set me off and I reflect that energy right back at them. It's that 10% of the time that I catch myself, and I hope it's more and more as I learn more and more into this process that you completely change that other energy as well, right? They become a different person because they're not expecting someone to see the good inside, right? So,
I've been trying to live by the mantra for the past 10 years, be the change you want to see in the world. And unfortunately, a lot of times I'm just showing up as that same energy as them. And so it's something that I'm trying to walk through too. And I love this, the good inside. I'm going to look that up because the other part I also try to remind myself is that they're a child of God, right? They're a child of God, child of God, child of God.
yeah,
And that kind of helps sometimes to, pull back. I think Oprah even wrote a book, not, a lot of times we want to ask, what's wrong with you? But
yeah,
instead we should ask, what happened to you?
right.
Type of thing. So I know, and God bless, I will not picking on the name Karen. That's just already a thing. I'm sorry, but people usually can understand what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
So I apologize, Karen. But yeah. What are some of the more like profound, huge, whoa experiences that you see in these events? And does it still like knock you off your center? Do you still go, holy crap, I can't believe this is happening? Or has it gotten kind of second nature?
No, I mean, I still go in with a very skeptical mind, right? I mean, there are things that I see and experience, and I've seen the data, and I should believe it, but there's a skeptical part of me that I don't, maybe we did it wrong, right? Or maybe it's just bullshit. There's no way, right? Some of the things are just unbelievable, yet we just haven't designed the right experiment to test it out. And one of the things that I do go to the events to do is to break the event. I want to do the experiment that shows that it's not right. And I've yet to show that experiment. Everything we've done has somehow come up in a positive element, right? It's shown us that there is something truly happening at that event. And so one of the reasons I keep going back is I can't explain it, right? There's something unique happening in that room that we haven't yet figured out. And it's changing. It's changing people around them. It's changing the person inside. It's changing people that that person interacts with then. And it can't be as simple as you just create a vacation like environment, right? This is one of the big critiques we get. Well, of course
Mm.
you're going to change
Oh,
the
yeah,
individual because they're on vacation. They're
yeah,
spending a week away from their stressful life and they're sitting in this resort and they get to check out of all the things that they normally would sort of drive them down this path. And so we've done a vacationing control group. So we've looked at people that are at the same event. The only difference is they don't get to go into the room and practice the week-long event. They get to
Oh.
stay at the week-long site at the Gaylord and go out, hang out at the pool, drink Mai Tais, do what you do that's not meditation. And I can tell you right now, we're working on this paper right now, but the week long is not a vacation. It is work, right? And I can't remember you've been.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It is
No, I haven't been able to go yet. I want to so bad.
and it's not like you're drinking a Mai Tai at the pool. You're
Yeah.
exercising your brain at a very high level, and it is a lot of work to go through this. When you do the math, and we've done it in these papers, it's about 55 hours of engagement that you have during that week. It's about 25 hours of lecture where you're listening to new ideas and it challenges everything about what you think, how you see the world. And that's traumatizing to a lot of people because they're being asked to look at something in a way that they've never looked at it, and it puts them up against a struggle. And then at the same time, you're being challenged by this new information, and you're asked to practice in things that may not be comfortable, right? In your meditations, you can go into happy places, you can go into sad places. When I went through my week-long event, the thing that kept coming up for me was my mom. And this was years after she passed away, but it's something that I don't think I've ever really processed. And I cried a ton that week. I mean, I could not stop crying. Every meditation, I'm finished. I'm like, why is my face all wet? Right? It's just, it is this release of whatever's happening. And so you're going through this crazy thing. It's not a vacation. And so we see that the individuals that are vacationing biologically get worse. So, moral of the story is don't go on vacation, go to a week-long event instead. There's a lot of stressors to vacations we don't think about. You got to make decisions about food. We're worried about the cost of things, and there's all these layers that get built into this, and you're going to have to interact with family, and maybe a vacation is not to deal with your family kind of thing, right? And so there's a huge difference between vacationing and the week-long event, and we're starting to see that. And there's a biological shift that happens, and so something happens in the room. I'm convinced of that for sure. I have not yet designed the right experiment to figure out what exactly is happening in the room. And so that's what keeps me up right now. And we're actually starting to think about how to solve or at least get closer to solving that question. How can we design the right type of experiment to figure out what's happening in that room?
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Fascinating, yeah. What do you say to Christians who still kind of maybe look at meditation as an Eastern thing and kind of a religious thing?
I mean, we're going through Lent right now, right? Um, and I mean, Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. If he's not eating, I'm sure he's doing something, and I'm pretty sure he was meditating that whole time. This is a part of Western tradition as well. There are mystics and meditators in um, every faith religion, whether it's Eastern or Western, and the really deep thinkers are the ones that are this contemplative, meditative individual. I think one of the things that we tend to think about is when we say meditation, it conjures up this Eastern idea of sitting in a
Yogi,
cross-legged
yeah.
position, going like this, and thinking about nothing. One of the things that I struggle with at these events is when you're asked to go into the void or blackness or darkness or this nothing space, I can't. I see light. And maybe as a Christian, for me, it's this void is really the light of Christ. It's this bright,
Mm.
bright, bright light. Almost to the point where I have to open my eyes sometimes. 'Cause I'm like, is someone shining a flashlight in my eye? Because I see this
Wow.
intense white. And so I think you will bring your own experience into it, and it will lead you down this path of realization that I don't think most people have until they push themselves into that deep experience. Um, if you're not meditating as a Christian, you're probably doing Christianity wrong. I think
Oh,
there
amen to that.
I think
We have a lot of examples of Christianity gone wrong these
yeah,
days. That's
and
for
I
sure.
think I, I think no matter how you interact with God, it is a deep contemplative meditative experience. And Christianity is no different. If you're praying and talking to God, it is meditation, right? That's what you're doing.
Absolutely. Amen. Love it. We're going to have the stuff in the show notes, but tell us a little bit about, where can people find more information? Where can they watch this documentary?
Yeah, so if you go to Inner Science Research Fund on their website, sources featured, and there's ways to get access to it. I was shocked and amazed and happy to see that it's now on everything. It's on Apple TV, it's on Amazon, some other places.
Really?
Not hard to find.
Yay.
Source, it's within you. Lots of sites will come up where you can download it and watch it and see things. And I still think they do once in a while these free days where they're trying to just get awareness and people to get access to it. So I think Inner Science still does these once in a while where you get free access to the documentary.
Awesome. Unfortunately, I have somebody at my door. My phone just went off. So, but we're at the end anyway. Make sure to also visit wearenikki.com/podcast and enter in BioBeats to get your Nikki at 10% off. And because we really love our customers, the way we show appreciation is we give away a Nikki a device as well as a 1-year membership to the wellness store. So make sure to go to the show notes to enter. Good luck. Thank you for joining us and have a healthy day.
Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health.
It looks like a little watch, but it's actually a frequency device. It's bioenergetic, so it has this little frequency light situation that goes into your arm.
This is my Nikki. It is a bioenergetic wearable that works by emitting a specific frequency carried by a red light, as you can see on the back. It's aimed at enhancing the body's natural healing process to improve wellness and reducing stress, pain, and inflammation. And to select a frequency, you tap it to wake it up, and then you slide to the screens that list the different frequencies. I have wellness or Lyme on mine. So if we want to pick one, we just tap on it, and you'll see the circles around, and there's a play button, play areas, tap there, and you can see the colors radiating that show that it's playing. And you would also see the red light on the back. And to stop, you just tap it again, and then you can slide and select a different frequency. I'm going to play afternoon. And you just tap, and away you go for your afternoon.
So they're two different things. You have the Nikki device, and then you have the frequency sets. And so right now they have the wellness set of frequencies, and they are absolutely incredible. So I absolutely love them.
Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health. wearenikki.com. The views, information, and opinions expressed in this content are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Freemedica. Freemedica Technologies, Inc. and its employees are not responsible, nor verifies accuracy any of the information contained in the following content. The primary purpose of this content is to educate and inform. This content does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.